On Business Tonight, Nigeria Economic Summit begins Tuesday in Abuja. Sokoto State Government seeks investment in key sectors. Entrepreneurs urge Nigerian government to grow economy beyond oil. Plus, global market share hit record high on Monday. Thank you for joining in. I am Fadishala Shutingwa. Harnessing mineral resources in Bayelsa will boost the internally generated revenue of the state's economy. And the Bayelsa State Commissioner for Mineral Resources, Maxine Fefega, made the statement while calling on youths not to truncate peace in the state for businesses to thrive, including exploration and exploitation activities of international oil companies operating in the state.
Mineral resources in the state which are lying fallow must be utilized apart from oil. There are so many non-oil mineral resources in this state which are not being utilized effectively. We need to do that so that we can beef up the IGR. If we do not operate in an atmosphere of peace, we cannot achieve this. So the IOCs who are working with us, government would like to be interfacing, especially when they have little or minor disputes with the host communities. If we want peace to reign, for the companies not to run away and to stay in the states to do business, exploration and exploitation, then it means that we have to give them the enabling environment.
Similarly, the Sokoto State Commissioner for Commerce, Aminu Bello Sokoto, says the state government is committed to facilitating the ease of doing business in the state through partnership with relevant national and international organizations. According to him, state government officials have also embarked on foreign trips aimed at wooing investors to the state for the purpose of boosting the economy of the state and the nation at large.
The economic growth plan for Obiaraeri government, we are going to do it here in Sokoto. The essence of, we are going to discuss about the economic growth plan, how to implement it. The National Council of Commerce is coming to Sokoto 7 to 10 November this year, which I believe the 16 federal agencies and that of the 2 ministers, including the ease of doing businesses in Nigeria, will come to Sokoto so that we discuss how the economy of Nigeria will be moving forward. We need to take it up. And recently, I visited the Nigerian Executive Director, Segun Awolowo, Nigerian Investment Promotion Council, which he was a smart office in Sokoto, which recently he come and commission it. We already gave him the office, and we are going to give them the land for in Lela for export processing zone, pre-trade zone for Sokoto, in terms of cross-border business, in terms of bringing a lot of investors, and in terms of confidence in business.
The 2017 Nigeria Economic Summit kicks off on Tuesday, that's tomorrow, in Abuja, and there are expectations that this year's summit will further articulate measures the government can adopt to take the country to the next level post-recession. The 3-day event will focus on the theme, the opportunities, productivity and employment, actualizing the economic recovery and growth plan. The summit will be declared open by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and it's expected to elicit and adopt a solutions-based approach in addressing the issues that will create opportunities, tackle unemployment, and improve productivity. And the financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed joins me now by phone to talk on the importance of the summit. And also joining me via Skype is Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, also a financial analyst. Many thanks, gentlemen, for your time. Well, I'll start with Mukhtar now. The Nigeria Economic Summit begins tomorrow. What can Nigerians expect from this meeting?
Well, I wish Nigeria could expect anything different from what we've always seen, because as far as I'm concerned, the Nigerian Economic Group is now becoming like a pressure group. And year in, year out, they have gone in there, they've done their meetings, but nothing substantial has come out of this meeting. We've not seen government accepting their policy. We've not seen government implementing some of the policy that were, put in place by this group. It has been on for a while, so for me, it's like more or less like a pressure, like a pressure group. I'm just trying to put pressure on the government to do the right thing in the economy. It's not mandatory for the government to agree with everything they do, like we have seen every government do, because we cannot pick for one decision that has been taken by any government as a result of meetings or such things from the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
All right, let me go to Nnaemeka now. Nnaemeka, let's look at the theme for this year's summit: the opportunities, productivity and employment, actualizing the economic recovery and growth plan. What's your take? Is it timely?
Very timely, and they are aligned with Mukhtar's submission. Since 1993 and then 1996, when the Nigerian Economic Summit Group was incorporated as a non-partisan, non-profit platform that brings together the private sector practitioners and the public sector officials to dialogue on the future of Nigerian economy and how to make it a private sector-led global competitive economy. But over time, you've discovered that this theme is very apt, because this is more than 5 months since the federal government of Nigeria launched elaborately the 149 pages document, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. It was an elaborate plan that marshaled out roadmap on how we can recover from recession and then put our economy on the path of growth over the next 3 years. There were loads of landmark objectives that were set in that plan, but unfortunately 5 months down the line, nothing practical, nothing tangible has been done by way of articulating implementations plan on some of the objectives that they articulated in that document. I can tell you for sure that that document was very elaborate. It's one thing to write things down. It is one thing to organize talk shows where people come and talk and make recommendations, just like Mukhtar pointed out. The whole essence of this platform was for the private sector to articulate policies and programs that will make our economy competitive. But unfortunately, after all these recommendations, it's one thing to make recommendations. It's another thing for those who make policies for us in the public sector, the officials, to implement some of these lofty objectives. Go back down the lane from 1996 till now, you will discover that if most of the recommendations, which are lofty, that were made during some of the annual summits of NES, by now our economy will have been among the top growing economies in the world. But unfortunately, it's all talk shows, good recommendations are proffered, and at the end of it, just like the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, very beautiful and elaborate document, but the question mark is in the implementation. One of the provisions of that National Economic Recovery Growth Plan was an arrangement where it was made that we'll have a special unit in the presidency that will monitor output, that will monitor performances, that will monitor set targets against timelines. But as I'm talking to you now, the federal government of Nigeria have not told us 5 months after when that team, the monitoring team in the presidency, will be put in place. Who are those that will man that monitoring team? How versatile are they? We don't know. So the question is, it's not just enough for this summit to hold. It has been holding since 1993, incorporated in 1996. But the question is, does the government have the goodwill? Do they have the political mind to implement what is recommended? It's quite unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation. This summit is timely, especially in the light of IRGP. But the question is, 5 months after the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan was put in place, what has the ministries, department, and the agencies done to effect its implementation? What has the presidency done to put in place that special advisory unit in the presidency that will monitor output to ensure proper coordination and handshake across the board? That is a question that they need to answer us.
Glad to have you back. You're watching Business Tonight. And just as my guest said before we left, we hope that all the summits don't end up being just a talk show. So I'll go back to Mukhtar now. It's been one summit too many. Let's assess the impact of the several summits we have had on the economy.
Look, Nigeria have not been short of ideas, just like Nnamdi is saying there. What we have problem with is implementation. We always have good ideas. We always have, we have all these ideas, but it's in terms of implementation. Let's take the news about diversification of the economy that we've been shouting since with the National Economic Summit also have been shouting for over the years. And you could just remember, you could just realize of recent, the government is telling us that they could not even export yam out of this country because there was not an enabling law that had been put in place since. So when we say things, we have it in paper, then we don't follow up with our actions. And this is obviously what has been the bane of Nigerian problem. It's not because we don't have the idea. It's just because we don't even look at the legislation arm of this idea. You can imagine that a lot of goods were banned. Even the rice that we are shouting that we want to begin to export rice is among those commodities that were banned during the military regime. So nobody's looking at legislation. We are always looking at how we want to grow our economy, but we are not looking at the little integrity of how to grow the economy, looking at the legislative angle. The National Economic Summit, as far as I'm concerned, has become like a jamboree. We go there, we bring the best in the industry, the vice president open it, being the chairperson of the Nigerian, the chairperson of the leader of the economic team of the government. He comes there, he open the summit, we do all the talk show, we submit all the recommendations, and that is the end of it. Next year we'll come back again, we sit down, we do same thing. But there's not been any commensable result with it. Of the economy that we've been shouting since with the National Economic Summit also have been shouting for over the years. And you could just remember, you could just realize of recent, the government is telling us that they could not even export yam out of this country because there was not an enabling law that had been put in place since. So when we say things, we have it in paper, then we don't follow up with our actions. And this is obviously what has been the bane of Nigerian problem. It's not because we don't have the idea. It's just because we don't even look at the legislation arm of this idea. You can imagine that a lot of goods were banned. Even the rice that we are shouting that we want to begin to export rice is among those commodities that were banned during the military regime. So nobody's looking at legislation. We are always looking at how we want to grow our economy, but we are not looking at the little integrity of how to grow the economy, looking at the legislative angle. The National Economic Summit, as far as I'm concerned, has become like a jamboree. We go there, we bring the best in the industry, the vice president open it, being the chairperson of the Nigerian, the chairperson of the leader of the economic team of the government. He comes there, he open the summit, we do all the talk show, we submit all the recommendations, and that is the end of it. Next year we'll come back again, we sit down, we do same thing. But there's not been any commensable result with it. This National Economic Summit knew Nigeria was going to recession, told the government what to do. They knew that the currency at the point was overvalued, told the government what to do, but nobody listened to them. So for me, it's more or less like we go there, we just say what we have to say. It's only beneficial to the private sector because it's the private sector that tries to go in there and implement some of these policies that were agreed upon. And that's why we see that the private sector in Nigeria is is one of the strongest in Africa because they have the policy and they have the political will to implement this, but the government doesn't have that, and that is our major challenge. We need to come up and begin to implement whatever thing. Like you said, the National Economic Growth Plan has been on for a while. Nobody is saying anything about it. We're not hearing anything about it. We just have it on paper. It has, because, you see, the challenge I have with Nigeria is that when we have challenge, we talk of diversification. Nobody's talking diversification now because the price of oil is going back to normal. So it's a challenge. We need to begin to do things rightly.
You're watching Business Tonight, and my two guests, Mukhtar Mohammed and Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, seem to share the same view. Nnaemeka has described the summit as talk shows, while Mukhtar says they are simply jamborees. Mukhtar Mohammed, I'd like to thank you for joining me on Business Tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Nnaemeka, you're still with me now, and I have the last question for you. Have the decisions taken by the various economic groups helped shape the growth of Nigeria in any way?
To be sincere with you, like I mentioned earlier, the federal government of Nigeria and those in the president have not been very, very sincere in implementations of some of the agreements or some of the issues that we are agreed in the on the platform. Now, let me give you a typical example. Every one of us are aware of the Barrow Gate that is trending today. That is the issue at NNPC, where the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources complained over $26 billion worth of contract was awarded without due process.
Indeed.
One of the recommendations that have gotten through some of the summit group was the issue of transparency in our oil and gas sector. Oil and gas still represent the mainstay of Nigerian economy. Recommendations over recommendations, even from the National Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, have advocated that we should unbundle our oil and gas sector and make it as transparent as others from the other part of the world. Look at the Petronas, look at the Petrobras, look at the British Petroleum, look at the model they are running. Nigeria, NNPC started before the Petronas of Malaysia. But today, those oil corporations, public sector oil corporations, are running so transparently. Some of the recommendations that were made was for the NNPC to be unbundled. NNPC today does not or should not be allowed to continue to control the prices of petroleum products, to subsidize petroleum products directly or indirectly. The truth of the matter is that we have continued to allow these things to linger. The public sector officials have refused to continue to implement some of the recommendations because opacity in that industry, opacity in our public sector allows room for slush funds, for corruption, for perversion in the system. If we had opened up that oil and gas sector to make it more transparent, to make it allow NNPC to regulate and allow the commercial section of it to be run transparently as the Petronas, the Petrobras, and the British Petroleum of this world, Nigeria will not continue to have this issue of slush fund from 1999 to today. Every government that has come in place have seen the oil and gas industry, the NNPC, as an avenue for them to control slush funds. And the recommendations upon recommendations from the Nigerian Economic Summit Group has continued to make it clear that until we restructure and reform that sector, until we unbundle the NNPC and other public sector agencies to work in the best governance system, to work transparently, Nigeria will continue to experience this kind of thing. And these politicians are very cunning. Honestly, I pray that one day God will give Nigeria the privilege of having leaders who are sincere, leaders who are honest, leaders who are altruistic, leaders that are very, very transparent, leaders like the Louis Kwame Yu of Singapore, leaders that will have the interest of the mass at heart, leaders that will place excellence, merit, transparency and integrity above clannish, primordial, and nepotistic considerations. That is the only thing that is lacking. The political goodwill, the strength of mind to do what is right. The NES has come to stay, and I'm sure that this summit will also churn out recommendations. But the problem remains, do we have sincere leaders at all levels of governance?
Nnaemeka, I wish we could go on. We seem to be running out of time. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, financial analyst, many thanks for joining me on Business Tonight.
You're welcome.
Well, after the break on Business Tonight, global markets record gains in key sectors. Stay with us. Glad to have you back. Well, huge transactions were crossed at the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Monday as investors took positions on liquid securities. Nnaemeka has details from the stock market.
The stock market closed strong on Monday as share prices rose in mid-trade when investors took to the trading floor to replan their portfolios. Banking stocks remained attractive to investors as they staked heavily on Access Bank, Diamond Bank, and Skybank. The Osha Index grew by 1.41%, leading heavy cap stocks to increase their values and prices. Nnaemeka, operating in the pharmaceutical sector, led price gainers, improving by more than 7%. International bureaus, Sterling Bank, Total, and Flour Mills were among other top gainers. Price losers were AG Leventis, Diamond Bank, NACO, and AG Leventis. Nnaemeka, TVC News, the Stock Exchange.
And world shares climbed on Monday with several key indexes hitting record high. The US dollar rose against major currencies with a near 10-week high. In Europe, Spain's blue cap IBEX rose to its highest in a week on hopes that Catalonia would take a step back this week from a unilateral declaration of independence from Spain. The pan-European FTSE Euro First 300 index rose 0.20% to close at a provisional 1,533, while the German DAX rose 0.16%. The MSCI's gauge of stock indexes in 47 markets around the globe gained 0.02% to set an intraday high. And finally, on Business Tonight, crude oil prices steady on Monday following reports that OPEC will extend output cut. And at the London market, the Brent crude trades at $55 per barrel. For the OPEC basket brand, prices steadied at $54 per barrel. Analysts say stability will return to energy market before the end of the year. And that's it on Business Tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Fadishola Shotingwa.